welcome to another showcase breakdown here at my Palm Hills house. We're going to keep going on a new section, but first just a little recap of what we've done in the past. We did that front gate area, then we jumped into the carport, followed by the front door area, and then we went into building the swimming pool area, and that led into building the kitchen. Then we jumped over to the master bedroom. We dropped in a fire pit, and then we worked and put in that cool little underground garage there in the back. I think this episode I want to go all the way over to the other side of the house to an open area where I put in this garden. Now, this garden area I thought was going to be more of like a yard, but I figured it might be better to maybe do some kind of growing area for food and things like that. So that was the idea behind it. What do you say we get going? I'll show you more details on the build. This was over towards the edge of my build area, so I knew I had to put in the wall, and that was one of the first steps, is to establish the size of this garden area, putting in the big Nuka World walls, establishing the size of the property area here, which is pretty close, like I said, right to the edge, which gave me quite a bit of room to play with when it came to, designing the garden as I went. So the first thing in this area, I had all this open space, and I had open space underneath, but I also had to figure out a way to end the water, the whole water feature. So I was just going to have a wall there, but I thought, what if we put in like a waterfall? First step I had to do was getting a lot of those boulders and start creating more of the water edge, so I could then put in the waterfall that would, spill over. Now, putting in the waterfall is a little trickier than I thought, and I was basically trying to make it appear as though the water just cascaded over the edge. But the waterfalls and the water, it's hard to line those up, and it's such a hard edge with the water that it was looking unnatural. So it was difficult to get a combination of the boulders sticking up through the water, but also some of the waterfall coming over the edge. But I think for the most part, I think it worked out pretty well, and you don't really notice all that much. Now, of course, as the waterfall goes over the edge, the water has to go somewhere. So I was thinking maybe it just went into, like a large pipe type drain that maybe helped water all the plants and stuff that were down there. But I thought that was a little too industrial and not very aesthetically cool looking, I guess, in the backyard. So I decided to just have a lower pond area that maybe I could put some pipes in that would maybe use some of that water. So the whole lower pond area, basically just using the boulders, using rocks, using other natural type things, just stacking them, building them, putting them around, and just trying to create an area around that water section just to make it look more like a natural pond rather than, say, a finished swimming pool type thing. And it also matches with the rest of the landscaping up above as it does, down here in the garden area. The other thing I wanted to do is establish some access from the upper yard as well as down below. So 2 ways to access, and I thought just a simple industrial warehouse staircase here rather than like a stone one might work best for this. So that was the concept of that. Just a simple staircase with a nice little area up above, and of course coming down and finishing that off. As you can see early on in the build, I had more of a greenhouse look going on down here that obviously I eventually changed. Now, as I said earlier, I wanted to continue on with the whole garage idea, which is why I needed to quappa-tilt the main concrete pillars that are from the Nuka World wall pieces and tilt those in so I could use that as that main giant concrete beam. And then I also use some vertical ones there on the side. Just really gives it a very strong look if it's, supporting all the house and, everything above it. It also just looks cool that way. And then I did add in a little bit of greenhouse roof pieces as an overhang, just to add that element and not, just have it open completely to the elements, but have a little bit of overhang there. Now down on the ground, rather than having it all, kind of farm dirt type thing, growing crops there in the dirt, I wanted to clean it up a little bit so it matched the house and the design of the house. So I wanted to use some of this river rock textured pieces here just to make it look like more of a nice clean gravel area, and then all the growing and the plants and things would be more planter type stuff rather than growing straight out of the ground. So that's why I chose to use this gravel type look, and I think it cleaned it up much better and just fits with the house theme. I also added in some curb pieces just to clean off that edge, and it's amazing just by adding those in. It really makes it look like this garden area is more designed, rather than just a random dirt garden. Also, to keep with the theme of the rest of the house, I wanted to add in some of these poles that were slightly tilted, just for that mid-century modern kind of look that I had going on up above by the pool area, just so this area down here blends well with the whole, design theme of the rest of the house. Now at this stage, I also wanted to establish how I was getting access to this area from up above, from inside the house. So that's when I started putting in the staircase and trying to figure out how I was going to do that. Added in these large stone steps and started cleaning up the whole wall sections that would then lead into this underground garden area. Around this time, when I started trying to figure out how I was going to do all the growing of the plants, the vegetables, the food. I tried many different ways with the planters, and a lot of them I didn't really like, but eventually I just started thinking outside the box, and that's when I came up with the combination of a few of these items that turned into these futuristic planters that look kind of self-sufficient, that might have like a water, fertilizer type thing added to it. So more like a table bench growing area. And I actually did a little quick tip on building one of these, and it's very simple combination of pieces of the Institute cabinets, the planter, and then a couple dressers on the side turned backwards, for that metal texture. And I think it turned out really cool, and I really like the look of these planters, and it definitely fits with the whole modern house. And it works well to have them in a line like this down on the gravel. It just looks very clean. One thing I like to do when building is use these lights from the vault. They're on the ceiling, but if you select them a second time, they kind of jump up into the ceiling on the other side. So they go all the way through, and the lights are still there. They're just above. You can't see them. I use that a lot in a lot of my builds because I want to light up the ceiling, but I don't necessarily want a ton of lights hanging down. So I'll use these for that a lot of times. I also wanted to add in a few more planters, but not all the same, like the combination planters that I made. So I thought I'd use some of the sections of the growing planter dirt and finish those off around the edge. So I could put actual plants in there, have them grow. So if I use this as an actual settlement type base where I was, growing food and, things like that in game, that this would work, but also look a lot better. So it was just a combination of finding, pieces, mainly the pieces that I used on the other planter, and figure out ways to use those around the edge to give it the same look and feel, but obviously different because it's lower on the ground. But texture wise, we have the white, we have that aluminum kind of metal type backing there, and I think overall it just fits well with the look and feel of the other planters. The interior room, I wanted to add in a lot more stuff than I actually did. I wanted to keep it clean and tidy and more organized than, some really junky greenhouse type thing. So I went pretty clean on this, but I kind of feel like I wish I would have added maybe a few more shelves, things like that, for storage. But I just decided to go with more of a cleaner look, more streamlined, more simplified, and I think it still works. Now the whole area underneath, I wanted to continue with the whole garden idea, and thought this would be more of like a storage area, or possibly where you could grow more plants, or maybe once they are grown, a place to harvest them, cut them up, do whatever you need to do. So overall, I was pretty happy with the way that looked and was in sync with the rest of the house design. Then we're going to jump ahead quite a bit because I came back and I finished off the other side wall here for the garden, and then closed this whole thing off, which was right next to what leads to, the lab area, and then eventually to the garage and storage room. not much to it, pretty simple gardening area, not too crazy, but a good use of the space, and I think it solved the problem of what I was going to do with the water at the edge of the house, if I was going to continue that around or, what I was going to do. So using this space for the garden area and have the waterfall over down into the garden area, I think turned out pretty cool, and it just was a better use of the space rather than just having it all yard up above. I think the garden area was a good idea and good choice, and it was a good addition in the end. So hope you enjoyed this episode. We will call this issue complete. We will add it to the shelf. Not a whole lot to this one, but we'll jump into something later. I'm not sure if we'll jump in and do the lab right next to the garden area, or possibly the storage room, which is connected to the garage and the hallway leading to the garden area, or maybe up above the living room and office area. So I'm not sure which one we'll do, but I'll figure it out at some point. So thanks for stopping by and watching this one here at the Palm Hills house, and until next time, keep building.